In a courtroom charged with tension, the gavel strikes, and all eyes turn to the center stage where White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt stands poised, her expression a blend of determination and defiance. The judge, a figure cloaked in the authority of his black robe, leans forward with a smirk, his voice dripping with condescension as he mocks Leavitt's personal life. He is specifically, her marriage to Nicholas Riccio, a successful real estate developer 32 years her senior. Marrying rich, Miss Leavitt, quite the strategy for someone in public service, he sneers, the words slicing through the room like a blade. The gallery murmurs, reporters scribble furiously, and Leavitt's jaw tightens, but her eyes gleam with resolve. This is no ordinary jab, it's a calculated move to undermine her credibility, to paint her as a gold digger rather than a formidable political force. The judge, known for his sharp tongue and questionable rulings, expects her to falter, to shrink under the weight of his mockery, but he's underestimated her. Leavitt, at 27, is the youngest White House press secretary in history, a woman who has navigated the shark-infested waters of Washington with a blend of grit, intellect, and unapologetic loyalty to President Donald Trump. She's faced down hostile press, weathered public scrutiny, and emerged stronger each time. Now, in this courtroom, she's not just defending her reputation as she's preparing to dismantle the judge's carefully constructed facade. The air crackles with anticipation as she adjusts her stance, her voice steady and clear, cutting through the judge's lingering chuckle. Your Honor, she begins, if we're discussing personal choices, perhaps we should examine yours, starting with the questionable financial ties that have funded your rise to this bench. The room falls silent. The judge's smirk falters, his eyes narrowing as Leavitt pulls a folder from her briefcase, its contents a ticking time bomb. She's done her homework, and what she's about to reveal will shake the foundations of this courtroom and beyond. For months, whispers have circulated about the judge's connections to a sprawling network of corrupt developers, offshore accounts, and political favors, rumors that no one dared to substantiate until now. Leavitt, with her knack for unearthing inconvenient truths, has compiled a dossier that traces the judge's wealth to a series of shady real estate deals, suspiciously timed campaign contributions, and a web of shell companies that lead to some of the most powerful players in the city. The judge's mockery was meant to humiliate her, but it's backfired spectacularly. Leavitt's not here to play victim, she's here to expose a corrupt empire, and she's just getting started. As she lays out the first piece of evidence, a document linking the judge to a luxury condo project that skirted zoning laws, the gallery gasps. Reporters lean forward, their pens racing across notepads. The judge bangs his gavel, demanding order, but his voice betrays a hint of panic. Leavitt's words are precise, her delivery unrelenting, as she details how the judge's rulings have consistently favored certain developers, including those tied to his own hidden investments. She cites dates, names, and dollar amounts, each revelation landing like a hammer. The courtroom, once a stage for the judge's arrogance, is now a battlefield where Leavitt wields truth as her weapon. The judge's face reddens, his composure unraveling as he realizes the depth of her preparation. This isn't just a defense, it's a surgical strike. Leavitt's marriage, her age, her rise to power, all the things he mocked are irrelevant in the face of her evidence. She's not just exposing his corruption, she's challenging the very system that allowed him to thrive. The public, watching through live streams and news feeds, begins to buzz on platforms like X, where posts praising Leavitt's courage go viral. Hashtags like #Leavitt exposes corruption trend within minutes. The judge tries to interrupt, but Leavitt presses on, her voice rising with conviction. This isn't about my personal life, she declares. It's about a judiciary that's been bought and paid for by those who think they're untouchable. The room erupts in whispers, and the judge's gavel pounds uselessly against the growing tide of scrutiny. Leavitt's folder, thick with documents, holds more secrets, bank records, email exchanges, and witness statements that paint a damning picture of a judge who's been playing both sides of the law for years. As she pauses to let her words sink in, the weight of her accusations hangs heavy in the air, a prelude to the chaos about to unfold. The courtroom is a pressure cooker now, the judge's earlier bravado replaced by a sheen of sweat on his brow. Leavitt stands like a prosecutor, her folder open, revealing a meticulously compiled trail of the judge's misdeeds. She moves to her second piece of evidence, a series of wire transfers from a shell company in the Cayman Islands to a trust fund in the judge's wife's name, suspiciously timed just before a major ruling that greenlit a controversial skyscraper project. "This isn't speculation, Your Honor," Leavitt says, holding up a bank statement for the court to see. "These are facts, verified by forensic accountants, and they show a clear pattern of quid pro quo." The gallery buzzes, and the judge's face drains of color. He tries to object, claiming irrelevance, but Leavitt counters swiftly, citing legal precedent that allows evidence of judicial misconduct to be presented in open court. Her knowledge of the law, honed through years of navigating political and media battlegrounds, is impeccable. She's not a lawyer, but she's studied the playbook, and she's playing to win. The judge's allies in the room are lawyers and clerks who've long benefited from his patronage, shift uncomfortably in their seats. Leavitt's accusations aren't just targeting the judge, they're exposing a network of complicity that reaches into the city's elite. She details how the judge's rulings have consistently favored developers who funneled money through back channels, often disguised as charitable donations or consulting fees. One case, she notes, involved the zoning variance that allowed a developer to build a luxury tower on protected wetlands, a decision that netted the judge's family trust a seven-figure payout. The evidence is staggering: email chains where the judge discusses consulting opportunities with developers, tax records showing unexplained spikes in his wealth, and even a recorded phone call where he brags about making things happen for the right price. Leavitt's delivery is calm but relentless, each word a precision strike. The judge tries to regain control, accusing her of defamation, but Leavitt is prepared. She produces a signed affidavit from a whistleblower, a former clerk who worked in the judge's chambers and witnessed firsthand the backroom deals. The whistleblower's testimony, Leavitt explains, corroborates every document she's presented. The courtroom is electric, the public outside glued to their screens as news outlets scramble to keep up. On X, users post snippets of Leavitt's speech, with comments like she's taking down the swamp single-handedly. And this is why they feared her. The judge's gavel slams again, but it's a hollow gesture. Leavitt's evidence is airtight, and the tide is turning. She moves to her next point, the judge's ties to a powerful political donor who's been linked to organized crime. This donor, she reveals, has been a frequent guest at the judge's private dinners, and their relationship has coincided with a string of lenient rulings for defendants tied to the same criminal network. Leavitt lays out photos, guest lists, and financial records that tie the judge to this shadowy figure, each piece of evidence another nail in the coffin of his reputation. The gallery is no longer whispering, it's a low roar of shock and outrage. Reporters are live tweeting, their posts amplifying Leavitt's revelations to millions. The judge's eyes dart to the exits, as if calculating an escape, but there's nowhere to run. Leavitt's folder still has more pages, and she's not slowing down. She pauses only to address the judge directly. "You mocked my marriage to distract from your own corruption, but the truth doesn't bend to your gavel." The room holds its breath, waiting for her next move. The judge's empire, built on years of favors and secret deals, is crumbling before the world's eyes, and Leavitt is the architect of its destruction. Her courage, her preparation, and her refusal to be intimidated have turned a personal attack into a public reckoning. As she prepares to unveil her next piece of evidence, the courtroom braces for another bombshell, and the nation watches, riveted by a young woman who's rewriting the rules of Power. 3. The atmosphere in the courtroom is now a mix of awe and dread. As Leavitt flips to the next section of her dossier, her voice unwavering despite the judge's increasingly desperate attempts to silence her. She introduces a bombshell, a leaked email from the judge to a prominent developer, explicitly promising a favorable ruling in exchange for a personal investment in a private resort project. The email, projected on a courtroom screen, is damning in its clarity, with phrases like "we'll make it worth your while" and "discretion is key." Leavitt explains how this email was obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request, cross-referenced with property records that show the judge's family trust as a silent partner in the resort. The gallery erupts in gasps, and the judge's face is a mask of fury and fear. He slams his gavel, shouting about privilege and admissibility, but Leavitt is unfazed. She cites case law, arguing that evidence of corruption overrides claims of privilege, and the court's own rules allow her to present it. Her command of legal procedure, gleaned from late nights studying Trump's legal battles, is a masterclass in preparation. The judge's objections are overruled by the weight of her evidence, and he's forced to sit back, his authority eroding with every word she speaks. Leavitt's next move is to connect the dots between the judge's rulings and a broader pattern of corruption in the city's judiciary. She presents a chart, meticulously prepared, showing how the judge's decisions have funneled billions in contracts and permits to a small circle of developers, all of whom have ties to his personal finances. The chart is a visual gut punch, with arrows linking the judge to shell companies, campaign funds, and even a charity that funnels money to his relatives. Leavitt's voice rises as she describes how this network has choked the city's growth, prioritizing profit over public good. This isn't just one corrupt judge, she says, it's a system that's been rigged to protect the powerful at the expense of the people. The courtroom is a powder keg, with reporters typing furiously and spectators whispering in disbelief. On X, the hashtag #LeavittVersusCorruption surges, with users posting screenshots of her chart and calling for federal investigations. Leavitt's evidence is more than a takedown, it's a call to action, a demand for accountability that resonates far beyond the courtroom walls. The judge tries to pivot, accusing her of political grandstanding, but Leavitt shuts him down with the pointed question, if this is grandstanding, Your Honor, why haven't you denied a single piece of evidence I've presented? The silence that follows is deafening. She moves to her next exhibit, a series of text messages between the judge and a city council member, discussing how to handle a whistleblower who threatened to expose their deals. The texts, obtained through a subpoena, show the judge's willingness to intimidate and silence critics, a chilling glimpse into his abuse of power. Leavitt's delivery is relentless, her words painting a picture of a man who's not just corrupt but dangerous. The public, watching through news feeds, is galvanized, with ex-posts demanding the judge's resignation and praising Leavitt's bravery. The judge's allies in the room are visibly shaken, some slipping out to avoid the fallout. Leavitt's folder, still brimming with documents, hints at more revelations to come, and the tension is palpable. She pauses to let the weight of her accusations settle, her eyes locking with the judge's. You thought you could mock me to distract from your crimes, she says, but the truth is louder than your insults. The courtroom is a crucible now, and Leavitt is forging a new narrative, one where the powerful are held accountable, and a young woman's courage changes the game. As she prepares to unveil her final pieces of evidence, the nation holds its breath, knowing that this moment will be remembered as a turning point in the fight against corruption. The courtroom is a storm of emotions, the judge's once imposing presence reduced to a cornered animal as Leavitt presses her advantage. She pulls out her next piece of evidence, a sworn deposition from a former city planner who claims the judge pressured him to falsify environmental reports to benefit a developer's waterfront project. The deposition, read aloud by Leavitt, details how the judge threatened the planner's career, promising to bury him if he didn't comply. The planner's words are chilling, describing a culture of fear in the city's planning department, where the judge's influence loomed large. Leavitt connects this testimony to a paper trail of altered reports, forged signatures, and rushed permits that allowed the project to proceed despite environmental violations. The gallery is stunned, and the judge's gavel lies untouched, his hands trembling as he listens to his own words quoted back to him. Leavitt's preparation is staggering, her ability to weave disparate pieces of evidence into a cohesive narrative a testament to her political acumen. She's not just exposing the judge, she's dismantling the myth of his untouchability, showing the world that no one is above the law. Her next move is to introduce a series of financial audits, conducted by an independent firm, that reveal discrepancies in the judge's declared income versus his lifestyle. Private jets, a yacht, and a second home in the Hamptons, all funded, Leavitt alleges, by under-the-table payments disguised as consulting fees. The audits, projected on the courtroom screen, show a clear mismatch, with millions unaccounted for in the judge's tax filings. Leavitt's voice is steady as she explains how these funds trace back to the same developers who've benefited from his rulings. The evidence is overwhelming, and the judge's attempts to interrupt are feeble, drowned out by the weight of her accusations. On X, users are relentless, posting memes of the judge in handcuffs and calling Leavitt a national hero. The public's outrage is palpable, with protests forming outside the courthouse as news of her revelation spreads. Leavitt's next exhibit is a bombshell, a video, secretly recorded by a disgruntled associate, showing the judge at a private dinner boasting about his ability to fix cases for the right price. The video, grainy but clear, captures the judge laughing as he describes how he's got the city in his pocket. The courtroom gasps, and the judge's face is ashen, his eyes wide with the realization that his own words have betrayed him. Leavitt's delivery is masterful, her tone measured but laced with righteous indignation. "This is the man who mocked my marriage," she says, "a man who's sold justice to the highest bidder while pretending to uphold the law." The gallery erupts, and the judge's gavel is a forgotten relic, his authority obliterated. Leavitt's folder still holds more, but she pauses to address the broader implications of her evidence. "This isn't just about one judge," she says, "it's about the system that lets men like him thrive, a system that punishes those who dare to speak out." Her words resonate, striking a chord with a public tired of corruption and cronyism. On X, her speech is dissected and celebrated, with users calling for a federal probe into the judiciary. The judge's allies are nowhere to be seen, their loyalty evaporating as the evidence mounts. Leavitt's courage has turned the courtroom into a crucible of truth, and the nation is watching, captivated by her relentless pursuit of justice. As she prepares to deliver her final blow, the tension is unbearable, the promise of accountability hanging in the air like a storm about to break. 5. The courtroom is a crucible of justice now, the judge's empire in ruins as Leavitt delivers her final, devastating blow. She presents a sealed envelope, its contents a mystery until she breaks the seal and reveals a federal indictment, handed down just hours ago, charging the judge with racketeering, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The gallery explodes in chaos, reporters shouting questions as the judge slumps in his chair, his face a mask of defeat. Leavitt explains that her team has been working with federal investigators for months, feeding them the evidence she's now laid bare in court. The indictment, she says, is the culmination of her efforts to expose not just the judge but the entire corrupt ecosystem he represents. Her voice is steady, but there's a fire in her eyes as she reads the charges aloud, each one a death knell for the judge's career. The document details how he laundered money through fake charities, intimidated witnesses, and manipulated the judicial process to enrich himself and his allies. Leavitt's preparation, her ability to coordinate with law enforcement while maintaining her public duties, is nothing short of extraordinary. The judge tries one last defense, claiming the indictment is a political witch hunt, but Leavitt shuts him down with the single sentence, "The evidence speaks for itself, Your Honor, and it's spoken louder than your lies." The courtroom is a maelstrom now, with bailiffs moving to restrain the judge's federal agents center, their badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Leavitt steps back, her folder closed, her mission complete. The judge is led away in handcuffs, his head bowed, a fallen titan brought low by a 27-year-old who refused to be silenced. Outside, the crowd roars, chanting Leavitt's name as news cameras capture the historic moment. On X, the internet is ablaze, with millions posting about the Leavitt takedown and calling for her to run for higher office. Leavitt, however, remains focused, addressing the press with the calm that belies the storm she's unleashed. "This isn't about me," she says, "it's about restoring faith in a system that's been broken for too long." Her words are a rallying cry, a promise that the fight against corruption is far from over. The judge's empire, once thought impregnable, is now a cautionary tale, a testament to what happens when power is challenged by truth. Leavitt's marriage, mocked as a weakness, has become a footnote in a story of triumph, her personal life overshadowed by her public courage. The nation watches as she exits the courthouse, her head held high, a symbol of a new generation unafraid to take on the powerful. Back in the courtroom, the gavel lies silent, a relic of a bygone era. Leavitt's victory is more than a legal win, it's a seismic shift, a reminder that no one is above accountability. As the sun sets on the city, the headlines are already being written. Karoline Leavitt exposes corrupt judge in courtroom showdown. The story will echo for years, a legend of a young woman who turned mockery into a movement, and a corrupt empire into dust.